On one hand, the consumer need for 10-minute deliveries wasn't demanded. It was created. Multiple startups went into an arms race to deliver products faster and faster to users who never really asked for it. This expanded into category after category, starting from groceries to FMCG products, then to apparel, electronics, PS4s, iPhones, later food. The 10-minute monster demands to be fed and is eating category after category, forcing consumers to change long-established patterns so they can get stuff delivered to their homes at a turnaround times they never imagined possible. The next big frontier for all of these startups is now alcohol and liquor. Finally, we have a category where most consumers want organized, regulated, and legitimate home deliveries. They're probably even willing to pay for it, as opposed to being in favor that they can get from a local store depending on their relationship with them. For quick commerce startups too, home delivery of alcohol is a huge opportunity. High margins, high stickiness, great repeat, massive market, negligible customer acquisition costs. Hundreds of millions of consumers want it. Startups with hundreds of millions in capital are desperate to offer it. So who is stopping 10-minute alcohol delivery? And to answer this question, I have two wonderful guests with me. First, I have Prasanna Natarajan. Prasanna is the founder and CEO of Hip Bar, which was later acquired by Cred. My second guest is Debashish Shyam. Debashish is the co-founder and director of Ardent Alcobev Private Limited.
So, what are the things that the state regulates in terms of the state regulates, the manufacture, transport, possession, and sale of alcoholic beverages. These are the four areas which the state governs. Manufacturing is obviously a question where we are not really concerned about here. We are not. We are concerned about the other three aspects, which is possession, transport, and sale. So I believe, and for the time that I ran Hibbar, that while these three things are regulated, but we come under the classification of where there is a threshold within which we operate that doesn't attract the law.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the word prohibition is explicitly mentioned in the directive principles of state policy. So it's the duty of the state to kind of drive prohibition. So the alcohol business that you see is despite all the constitutional refrain that is put
Sorry, I
around.
have to ask, does everyone who's involved in this, in the marketing and the sale of alcohol, constitutional experts as well? Because this is like the two of you are
Seriously,
like,
it's like a civics lesson.
yeah,
like,
you're actually
boom.
quoting it. I love it. Please continue.
Yeah, because at some point in time, because of the restrictions on advertising, the marketing was always against the legal teams in respective organizations, and you kind of they throw it back at you in terms of what is explicitly stated, and that's the reason why, apart from all the four things, the four buckets that Prasanna mentioned, even promotion, sampling, price discovery, etc., are also not possible or restricted as a part of constitution, but I would say more a part of the state policy rather than the federal constitution.
Understood. So, Debashi, let me just go a little further. So, I know we've spoken about the constitution and, of course, what the state can do and can't do at a very broad level. But I think this is now a good place to begin with. Out of these four aspects that Prasanna has spoken about, how would you look at it from a manufacturer or a brand perspective with respect to possession, with respect to sale, distribution, etc.? What's your, to put it slightly differently, you said that the legal team essentially pushes all of this at you. What do you push back on?
So I think fundamentally, home delivery of alcohol benefits every stakeholder in the value chain. There is a larger
I
belief.
disagree. There are some like large stakeholders who do not benefit. But let's get to that later.
Yeah, so fundamentally, I think it does. Obviously, the belief is not equally,
Correct.
seeped in everyone. Like even in West Bengal, the retailer lobby, there were some retailers who were very, very positive, but there were a large majority who were,
Got it. But
I'm
sorry, I
saying,
interrupted you.
yeah.
Why does it benefit everyone in the chain?
So let's look at it from a consumer perspective. Wider choice, price discovery, browsability, etc., etc., and of course, responsible drinking. You're sitting at home and drinking, and all of that. So that's the consumer bucket, right? The brand owner bucket, I can reach out, recruit, communicate my brand story, talk about product differentiation, etc., etc., in an era where advertising is not possible. Retailer, higher consumption, higher footfall. Of course, from a brand owner's perspective, higher volumes, and so on and so forth. Even from a retail throughput perspective, higher footfalls. Just what a data point here, the entire alcohol market in India is about $40 to $45 billion. That throughput goes through 90,000 retail outlets, retail and on-trade outlets. Compare that with FMCG. Tea and coffee put together is about $15 billion. There are 12 million outlets.
15
right?
as in 1-5.
1-5.
Oh, so alcohol, the industry is three times.
3 times. If you take beer, spirits, country, all put together, is 3 times tea and coffee in terms of value.
Yeah.
But it transacts through only 90,000 outlets. So 90,000 outlets in alcohol versus 12 million outlets in FMCG. So you can see the retail power, the lack of accessibility, and so on and so forth because of this licensed outlet reach that is available. Now, if home delivery was to get opened up, imagine what it will do to accessibility.
Hi, this is Rohin. This isn't part of the episode. Instead, I'm here because I want your help. We want to feature more women guests on 2x2. More women founders, more women professors, more women operators, more women policy experts, more women investors. You get the idea. Because my co-host Praveen and I are, well, men, there's an implicit male bias in our conversations, our networks, and our arguments. Add to that the freewheeling and unscripted nature of our conversations, which can dissuade women guests who don't know us. We want to correct this. Help us expand the universe of 2x2 guests to include more women professionals and leaders. Check our show notes for a link that will let you suggest names to us. It could even be you. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
See, I'll give you two startling statistics apart from what, about the 90,000 outlets which Debashish just mentioned. In Maharashtra, from the year 1974, there has not been a single new liquor retail license issued.
Yeah.
So compare the
Same for
population of
Karnataka.
Maharashtra. In Karnataka, from the year 1994, there has been no private retail liquor license issued, even though MSIL, which is the government's own corporation, has got additional outlets. So what happens is imagine this entire liquor business to be like a unreserved compartment in a railway in a train. What happens is once you get in, you don't want the other man to get in. So you go and cock block, somewhere in the front, wanting more space. So this kind of self-patronizing situation exists in the industry. So the license given by the state is basically the silver spoon for in many families, and they pass it down, and it becomes a kind of a birthright for them to do the business.
So
So
I think the analogy is it's closer to what the medallion thing is for taxi cabs in New York City, where in New York City, nobody can just become a taxi driver. Like there is this thing called the medallion that you have to pay a lot for. And the only way you can get it is you have to buy it off somebody else. So that's what you're talking about, a liquor license. The only way I can get a liquor license or anybody can get a liquor license is I have to buy it off somebody who's willing to pass it back to me or something.
Or rent.
2 months ago, we posed a challenge to some of India's brightest and most creative minds at the country's top business schools.
In 3 sentences, the challenge before you is: number 1, you're a quick commerce company. Number 2, you have $1 billion. Number 3, how will you win? That's it.
Tune into 1 Billion in 10 Minutes, a podcast by my colleague Rahil Philippos based on the Ken's inaugural case competition organized in collaboration with Zerodha. You just heard Praveen Gopalakrishnan, the COO of the Ken and the author of our popular newsletter, The Nut Graph. For the case competition, our in house team, headed by Praveen, shortlisted 10 teams out of nearly 100 competing for a 10 lakh rupee grand prize. Over 6 episodes, you will hear parts of their ambitious and creative pitches, all 10 minutes long, rooted in the real world and centered around 5 quick commerce platforms that have completely changed the way we all shop. You can listen to the mini series on the Ken's app, Apple, or Spotify. The links are in the show notes, and now back to the episode.
Or they are subleased, but well, most of those are under the happens through at values which are completely suppressed from the authority. The authorities tend to lose with the system, but what happens is the people who are in the system, drive. Encourage this kind of a policy paralysis to exist as far as the new licenses are concerned. So, in terms of the excise department, they feel that new licenses means more. They are usually staffed very understaffed, so they can't manage more outlets, and they're quite happy with the dealing with this limited set of people to exercise governance over the trade.
So, I just like to come in here and point out this entire conversation that we're having right now is very interesting because that's the crux of the matter, right? This is a large industry which is artificially constricted and forced to go through
Yeah.
a set of licensed retailers. So, what does it, in any sector, if a sector is growing or is really large and it's forced to go through a certain set of people who control it, those people get very powerful and the money goes through them, which is why licenses are, scarcity makes sense because it makes licenses more valuable, right?
So,
And
and that is one. The second is the way to build a brand is to incentivize the retailer. That's the only way to build a brand, because you could have a large advertising budget, but if you don't have a significant below the line chunk, you are not going to be able to build a brand. Even if you build a great awareness, he will ensure that visibility is not there, or he's not pushing out your brand.
two were the more pointed parts of what was a more than an hour long discussion we had on the latest episode of 2 by 2. If you want to know where else the discussion led, you can listen to the full episode by becoming a premium subscriber to the Ken, which, in addition to 2 by 2 will also let you access all our long form stories, premium newsletters, and visual stories. Or if you just want to sample full 2 by 2 episodes, you can do that by getting a premium subscription on Apple Podcasts at a great monthly price as well. We'll be back next week with another exciting discussion and 2 by 2 for you to think about.